Welcome to the HuntLeague podcast, where we share hunting stories from the field that help pave the way for others to follow.
If you look at everything happening, the main thing that anti-hunters are coming after is bear hunting. It's kind of the low-hanging fruit.
This is your host, Jared Newman. Let's get started. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the HuntLeague podcast. I am super excited to have our guest, Kolby Morehead, the man behind BHM, which is Bear Hunting Magazine. So, Kolby, let's get this party started. Tell us a little about who you are and how on earth did you end up at the helm of Bear Hunting Magazine?
No, I'd gone on a hunt with my buddy back in like 2018. He was the former owner of the Bear Hunting Magazine, and I went on a hunt with him up in northern Manitoba. And I just kind of got hooked and decided that I needed a life change and that I wanted to go and just help him grow the business. And then he went off and got a offer to go join Meat Eater and felt like that was the right move and was like, you should buy the magazines. Everybody was for it except for me. Like, I'd come and I really wanted to like build it with a buddy, but that just wasn't the way that it was designed to go. So it was just something that I kind of like fell into.
If I understand it right, you didn't grow up bear hunting.
So my dad was a commercial fisherman and he was doing some trapping whenever I was born. I grew up, running trot lines, coon hunting, pig hunting, deer hunting, ducks, everything that we could do in East Texas. I did, but we had no population of black bears. And anytime somebody said, "Oh, I saw a black bear here or there," it's like, you lie,
You saw a black lab running through a field.
Yeah.
So your first bear hunt, that was in what year?
That was 2018.
You still don't even have a full decade under your belt yet as a bear hunter.
No. I've been pretty immersed, but no, I don't have like longevity yet. It'll be there though. I mean, like, I'm kind of eat up with it.
When did the bear kind of hunting bug really bite you and get you hooked?
The thing that really got me was the first time that bears came into a bait and I saw them up close, like within, 15 yards. And whenever I saw how different they were, just how special they interacted, just how they moved, there was something different about them that's like, man, these are so much more special than whitetail. To be up close to them, watch them. Whenever they started making different sounds, it was really cool. Whenever they do that, ooh, like those guttural sounds that you just, you don't really hear other critters making them. And then the bear that I actually got that first hunt, it walked right under the stand that my buddy and I were sitting in. And yeah, I just got hooked, being under this canopy cover. And you see shadows everywhere, but it's like when you're bear hunting, those shadows sometimes move. And it's almost like all of a sudden I'm Peter Pan and I'm just chasing shadows,
Oh, yeah. Well, I had the privilege of being on your podcast not too long ago. We talked about finding your tribe, how important it is to kind of have hunting buddies out in the field with you. Was it the bear hunt itself, or was it the camaraderie and the experience you had kind of with Clay in the field that got you hooked? Can you even separate those two things?
Yeah, I think everything plays together. I don't think that I would have one hunt that would keep me from loving it. But that trip was definitely special. I mean, we had driven 24 hours straight north, driving through the most remote areas I've ever been through. Because we were up in Thompson, Manitoba, which is like the upper like 2/3 of Manitoba. We were even seeing some of the northern lights. And I think one of the things that really got me too is just being in such a wild place that was in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we had a long boat ride after driving to the middle of nowhere. And we were out there in this pristine area off the grid, bald eagles flying everywhere, like world-class walleye fishing. It was with all-terrain bear hunts. And the owner of that outfit is Corey Grant. I think it just opened my eyes to a different type of wildness that I didn't understand or had never touched. And, I think it pushed me further into things that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And then once you come into something that you don't know and you see the beauty inside of it, it kind of like propels you. It's like, oh, I want to know more about this. I want to go deeper. And, yeah, I don't know. It was something about it that bit me. And I don't think it was necessarily taking a bear. I think it was being around them, seeing them. It was just a crazy experience. And I think there was a aspect to where that particular hunt gave me some nostalgia because I grew up running the river. And so Like, some of these hunts were boat-based, where we were getting off the boat and then just walking to where we were hunting. I don't know, it was just, like, the perfect storm of things.
That's a awesome introduction to bear hunting. Sounds like you owe Corey Grant and the outfitter up there in Manitoba. What outfitter did you say it was?
Yeah, all-terrain bear hunts.
All Terrain
So,
Bear Hunts. I mean, they set
yeah,
you up pretty dang well, it sounds like, on
yeah.
this first hunt.
And the other thing that's crazy is I was in an area where they have no deer, which I didn't know a place like that existed. But when you get so far north to the top, upper end of the boreal forest, like you start losing a lot of the other game. And so up in that area, you just have like you don't have a lot of different game. You have bears, you have some moose. I think he said a caribou every once in a while, wolves, and then just like rabbits and a bunch of hare.
Now, for you, I mean, what really sets bear hunting apart from other types of big game pursuits? Because you grew up hunting. I mean, you said you did coon hunting and grew up on the water a lot, but
hmm
what sets bear hunting apart from other big game pursuits?
Man, they just act different. I think it's special whenever you see one. Like, we have a good population of bears here in Arkansas, and there's guys that'll be out there all their lives in the woods. These guys that are going deep, hunting deer, getting big deer that never see a bear. And so I think it's cool that you just don't typically happen on a bear. Like, if you're going out and you're intentionally after a bear, you have to work for it. Like yesterday, I took a buddy out and we went and set up a trail cam on a piece of public, trying to get him set up for deer. And we already had 2 bucks on camera this morning. It's like you can go out and you can find where these deer are traveling a lot easier than you can a bear. And then whenever you do see one, it's amazing. And oftentimes bears follow the food. It's not like you can always go out and pattern a bear. Like, they key in on a food source until they're done with that food source. So you kind of have to chase the food, not chase the bear. I don't know. It's just different, on cameras and stuff. Like, I love to run trail cameras. I've got a pond in a remote piece of public that I put out, and bears are just out there in the water all the time, like splashing around, bathing, and they're just special. Like, you're not going to see deer interact the way that they do. Other animals can't move the same way they do. They're very bendy. Even the fact that you have to shoot them further back, that you have to consider them specifically. Not all shots are created equal on different game. And so everything is a new learning opportunity. You just don't have them figured out. And there's also not as much research on them. We know so much about deer movement, deer activity, and it takes a lot of the mystery out of that. And I think it's cool to hunt some sort of critter that there's still a lot of mystery surrounding them that are more isolated. Like right now, you're seeing bears come out into public places because the juvenile bears are getting pushed off of their moms.
Yep.
And so you're starting to see a lot of bears getting caught and getting in trouble in city limits, but that's just because they're just now getting pushed out and they're figuring out what life is supposed to be like. But other than that, like, there's such a mystery.
I love it. Well, you're wearing a hat that says guard the gate.
Mhm.
What does guard the gate mean?
Yeah, it came out of a podcast, and back when Clay's still on the magazine, we had a podcast, and it was me, him, and James Brandenburg. He was the chair of the backcountry hunter and angler chapter here in Arkansas, and it's just something that came out of the conversation. Basically, we're talking about the low hanging fruit that anti hunters come after us with. And if you look at everything happening, the main thing that anti hunters or anti hunting groups are coming after is bear hunting. It's kind of the low hanging fruit that, people don't really understand it. Most people don't know that bear meat's really good. It's more like beef, like in its texture. If you cook it like beef, it'll be very similar, more so than like deer or something. It's very palatable. But inside of that, like, people just don't understand bears because they're not seeing them run around their neighborhoods. It's not something that they see regularly. Arkansas reintroduced the black bear, and for decades they thought it was massively unsuccessful. They just weren't seeing bears, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we've got a good population. There just wasn't enough of them to where they were getting out and people were seeing them. Um, and so I think guarding the gate is just like is basically like being a good representation for hunters in general, and then guarding the gate that the antis are after to protect both that species and the ones that they will eventually get to. It's trying to protect the first dominoes from falling, get in front of a chain reaction that could potentially happen. I mean, because everything right now, it just seems to be based upon momentum in particular states. We're seeing it happen in Florida right now. There's a lot of fighting over in Washington state. They're trying to get a lot of wildlife commissioners removed because of the anti-sentiment that they have, because it's clear that they're not concerned about the health of the animals. Like a lot of times, they don't care if the bear dies or not. They just don't want people hunting it, which is very
Correct.
bizarre. Even inside of the bear hunting community, there's a lot of things that bear hunters don't understand. I recently went on a hunt pretty close to Yellowstone, like in the core grizzly habitat. And in 2 days, we saw 16 grizzly and only 2 black bears. There's a lot of people that were like, why didn't you shoot a grizzly? It's like, because it's illegal. You're this big time bear hunter and you don't know that we can't hunt grizzlies and that they're protected under the ESA. But when you think about 16 black bears and only
No,
or
16
16
grizzlies.
grizzly and only 2 black bears, it's like kind of mind blowing. And I mean, the guy that I hunt with up there, he's seen over 20 grizzlies and only I think 3 black bears so far in the last several weeks.
Wow. All right. So kind of leads me to the next question, which is, I mean, there's a lot of myth, mystery, and even controversy around bear hunting. What is one misconception that you wish more people understood?
It's kind of loaded up. There's a lot because the other thing inside of bear hunting is you have so many different methods.
Explain that. What when you say different methods?
So inside of bear hunting, you have the spot and stalk that you would see a lot inside of the West in those more open spaces, and then you can spot and stalk hunt them or still hunt them in the South and East, but it's hard because there's more dense canopy cover, and so it's just really hard to hunt shadows and nothing but shadows, you know. Um, and they're isolated, so it's not like you can like spot them and then make a play on them. And then there's so many people that don't understand bait hunting, and bait hunting is a tool for getting the more mature boars. It's kind of creating a food source and creates kind of a funnel to where you can really get to see some bears. And I gotta say, like bait hunting, it already has become nostalgic for me. Like it's got my heart because I find that I really love seeing animals just be animals, like just be themselves. And I like those close interactions. And it's not like we just go out there and shoot the first bear we see. When I go to Canada, like I'm probably seeing 40, 50 bears before I see the one come in that I'm like, hey, that's the mature one that I came here for. You watch a lot of bears with the intention of going after a larger, more mature male bear. And then in hound hunting, like it's a lifestyle. So you can pursue bears with hounds. And one of the things that is a big misconception there is that hound hunters are all about bear hunting or about the kill of the bear, where really like they're about being out there with their hounds and their hounds doing what they were bred to do, what they were meant to do. And I think people think that hunters will go out there and force hounds to do it and they're like hard on them. But it's like, the hard thing is keeping a bear dog from trying to get in the truck or chase the truck all the way down the road if you leave him behind and he gets off his lead. And they also have a misconception that any of these things are easy. And I think that's the biggest misconception is people think that bear hunting or different types of bear hunting are easy. Like I've worked hard in every different way that I've bear hunted, and it all takes a different type of knowledge. It takes woodsmanship. It takes you going out there, learning the land, understanding the area, understanding how they move, what would draw them in. You have to be current on where the food sources are at the time. Um, so yeah, you can foot snare bears up in Maine, but it's kind of one of those things. It's the last area. You just don't see much about it. It's hard to run an article or something that shows that. And that's probably that and a bear drive are the two quietest methods just because they're limited to pretty much one state. And for foot snares, it's just hard to portray it accurately. But those guys, I mean, they have to be such woodsmen and know so much reading sign and stuff. Like it's super hard to go out there. Like it takes time to learn those things. And the cool thing about that is they can be selective too. I mean, I think that's the most common misconception. They can be selective on the weight of the bear. They put green sticks above that snare so that a bear has to be really heavy to go through. Even though that snare might go off, doesn't mean you're still going to get the bear. I went and we had it set off the last night and one of the claws on the pad of the bear was over the wire. So
It
Um,
didn't hook around it.
yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't
it
hook
just
around
went
it, and
under the paw.
yeah, and so it got away. I was nervous about that one, but once I went through it and understood it more, I was like, "Man, this is so cool." And so I think anytime that you try to go against one method or another, it's like you're just alienating everyone. And I think that's a big part of Guarding the Gate is just like supporting any legal method on any type of critter. You just need to support it, whether it's something that you want to do, whether it's something you like or don't like there's a good possibility that I will never try to go trap a bear again, but I know the reasons why it should be protected now. I went out there and with something I was uncomfortable with, and I found the beauty inside of it, and so I'm carrying that with me so that whenever there's another type of hunting, some method that I don't understand, I can think inside of my mind, it's someone's captured the beauty inside of that, and I just don't see it, you know? Because I haven't experienced it or whatever. I just think that the biggest misconception is that there's something wrong with some other method and that your method's the best.
Sure. How do you see the role of Bear Hunting Magazine in educating and preserving the culture of bear hunting?
I mean, that's something we think about what our role is, and I think it is just education, making people aware of things. We can't keep up with all the issues because they're everywhere, and that's not the focus that we're supposed to have. So, really, for us, the important thing is highlighting the groups that are doing things. So, a lot of times, whenever there's something specifically around bear hunting, most of the time will stream into. So, like most recently, it was the commenting section part of the movement to bring the bear hunt back to Florida. And so I was on 2 of the 3 calls just watching. I don't think that was a place for us to like chime in and give our thoughts on things. I think it would have done more harm than good because like this is kind of like our job, Of course we're for it
Of course you're going to be.
and
So you don't
yeah,
have a
and we're
neutral voice. It doesn't
yeah,
sound.
and we're not in Florida. And so I think if we would have raised our heads and tried to have commented on that, they would have been like, "Oh, well, they're bringing in people to lobby from all these other states," and it's like that's what they were doing on the anti side.
Yeah.
But it would have been something that they could have said against that whole thing if we would have spoken up or made a comment. And so I don't think that that is a role that we ourselves are meant to do because I don't think it carries the potency. Like if we talk, it's going to come off more as like something that's just good for us. I just don't think that that's our role. I think it's to educate, to make people aware.
Like, I love hearing stories from the field. I feel like stories from the field is what kind of inspires people to get out there and chase their own adventures, and it helps
Uh-huh.
expand people's imagination. So there's going to be a lot of people that listen to this that are, deer hunters, elk hunters, but maybe they've never gone on a bear hunt. I
Uh-huh.
love kind of what this exposes them to in terms of just you start sharing a story and it's like, man, I want to go and chase my own adventures. So I want to
Uh-huh.
dive into some of your stories from the field. Can you tell us what you would consider the most unexpected thing that's ever happened to you on a bear hunt? I know that might be a tough question, but
The thing is, it's like it's so different from method to method, but the most fun ones are typically on baited hunts because you're just in such proximity to them. You see so many bears. There's one hunt in particular. I got dropped off at the bait and I was up in the stand and it just rained solid for an hour. It was one of those moments. Is my rain gear gonna hold up? I don't want to sit in the stand for 8 to 10 hours and just soaking wet. Luckily, it held, but on that particular bait, there was this sow black bear. She would come in and she would leave. She would come in and she would leave, and so I kind of got familiar with her being there, and I feel like we kind of became buddies. At one point, she had disappeared, and I hadn't seen her for a while, and all of a sudden, I felt my tree stand moving and I looked down and she was up on the ladder coming up to the tree stand and she was rubbing her back on another tree beside that ladder. And I just thought it was so cool. She was looking up at me and a lot of times a bear will go out and do big circles. And she had done that a few times. Like she had caught my scent and she still like chose to be in there. She felt safe. At another point in time, like I was using a thermocell and whenever I'd taken the new scent thing out of the wrapper, I went to put my wrapper back in my backpack and I accidentally dropped it and it fell to the ground. Well, later that night, she's out there and she finds that wrapper and she just thinks it's the coolest thing. She gets it in her mouth and then she rolls over on her back and she's like batting at it and stuff. And I'm just like, this sow is so cool, you know? All of a sudden, I wanted to protect her. I was like, let some boar come in here and mess with her. It's like lights out. I don't care how big it is, you know? I mean, like, just stuff like that that I think's cool. It's not like it holds any great significance. It was just special to me. And, you know, I think too, one of the things is you get into really wild places whenever you're after bears. When I was up north, like, there's something about seeing moose, you know, like we don't have moose down here. And, you know, when I was in Wyoming, I saw 10 moose in those 2 days too. And, seeing them and seeing mule deer and antelope and everything is real special to me as well. I don't know. I find that I'm much more into seeing the animals in their native habitat. I think I'm more driven that way versus somebody that might be more into big landscapes and feeling small inside of their environment on a Western hunt. It's like you want that big, expansive thing. You know, you want to see the scenery, you want to feel small, you want the challenge to be the landscape. You know, I'll take a few shots of scenery, but it's like I take a lot of pictures of the animals that I see, and I think I'm very like animal driven, just being around them, seeing them. On a baited hunt, it's like you're putting in a lot of time, a lot of work leading up to the hunt. Even if you go on an outfitted hunt, you're still going to be in the stand a long time. Like you go to your stand sometime after lunch, say 2 o'clock, and then it doesn't get dark in the spring until like 10. And so, you know, you're in the stand for 8 hours. If you go with hounds, you realize that the adventure there is you don't know where you're going to end up. Like you can't come up with a plan. You don't know where you're going to cut a track. You don't know where the dogs are going to end up. And they're going to end up in some nasty hole that you would have never gone to in all of your life. But now you're forced to because the dogs went down there and treat a bear. And so you got to go get them. But inside of hound hunting, it's more community driven. And so you're going to be there. It's kind of like going out as a band of brothers, being out there, and it's like, hey, this is going to suck. Let's go. You know, the other thing is on that type of hunt, you typically don't have to carry as much gear. And so you're running a lot lighter. You feel like, I don't know, there's a difference between going out and feeling so equipped and having like so much on your back to where I can stay out here for days if I need to. But when you're out there on a hound hunt, it's like we're going down and we're coming up tonight or in the morning or something, you know, but you're going in light. You know, if it's late, if it runs into the night, you're going in with just, you know, maybe something to drink and a light pack and your headlamp or something. And you're going out there with several guys. And what you find when you're around guys that are hound hunting is you find that they're not really as much about the animal they're pursuing. They're really about their hounds. And so to houndsmen, a training season is just as good as a pursuit season for their hounds because they're about the dogs and how they work and how they get together, knowing their dogs. There's so many layers to that, and it's such a lifestyle. So that type of hunting has the largest barrier to entry because it is a lifestyle. And oftentimes these guys that have good hounds, it's like sometimes you'll luck into one, sometimes you have to pay to play. And sometimes it comes from generations of them selectively trying to hone in the attributes, or they have a particular line of hound that somebody else has done that they've built relationships with and they like to run. They like the way they run. Some guys are really specific on a type of breed. Some of them just like, I just want a dog that'll like chase bears. And so there's so many different takeaways from each type of hunt, you know. And I don't think I've ever gone on a bear hunt and came back and felt like I missed out on something or that it wasn't worth it. Basically, like you find what you're looking for. And so whenever I'm going on a bear hunt, I'm looking for the beauty inside of it, the thing that makes it special or set apart. But then oftentimes, just like we talked about on the podcast that we did together about finding your tribe, like you come into different tribes of people and you join into those communities and you're forming bonds and it's just about what you make it. It's just like with elk hunting, like, man, I've been on a lot of Western bear hunts, a lot of successful Western bear hunts. There's only been 2 times that I myself have been the designated shooter and it's gone terribly wrong. You know, like I haven't gone out and made a long shot on a Western bear. But I mean, like, I still consider those things as successes. I've been a part of them. Like, I learned a lot. I just haven't been the trigger guy, you know?
Yeah.
But every one of those trips has been worth it. Even this last one that it was only like a 3-day hunt where we saw nothing but grizzlies for the most part. It was still worth it because I was out there I was getting to be good buddies with the guys out there. I don't feel pressure to kill a bear because, like, I get to do a lot of bear hunting, and so, like, I do feel like there's some guys that would go out and feel a lot of pressure to fill their tag, and it's a little harder to look at those things and not beat yourself up if you're not successful or give your time to it, you know? But if what you're after is downing an animal solely, you're never gonna be satisfied.
That's good. I mean, you talked through several different things. I mean, you have the difficulty of a Western hunt, the terrain is kind of the challenge. You also mentioned like doing a hunt with hounds where they might take you into a hole that you would never venture into unless they drug you in there.
Mhm,
But what is one hunt that's really tested you either mentally, physically, emotionally? Like what can you
mhm.
point back to on a bear hunt that was just like, man, this one either kicked your tail or just gave you a run for your money?
Man, I think it's often weather related. I think for me, I went on a spring bear hunt last year in Oregon where I was the hunter. It just rained the whole time. I mean, it rained so much that I even had to wear my rain gear and lay prone in the bed of the truck to make sure my gun was on. And then we had to go and dry it off and oil out, the outside of my gun. And so it was just miserable. It was so frustrating because they were dropping a bunch of bears leading up to me getting there, and then nobody was getting anything while I was there. And then I left, and they started getting bears again because the weather cleared up. I think that was probably the hardest physical hunt I've been on that really tested me. So before the magazine, I was in IT, and so like a lot of my job was at a desk. I moved here from Dallas, like I was from the flatland. I wasn't really outdoors a lot up there because it's kind of the concrete jungle. And then I think I'd been here I feel like a few weeks. I don't know, not very long. And the owner of the magazine at the time, Clay, was gonna go on a spring bear hunt in Montana, and I was not prepared at all, but he needed somebody to go film. It was a mule-based hunt, and so I think the day before we were leaving was the first time I'd gotten on a mule, and I rode it for maybe a half mile, and then the next time I rode a mule, we were out in the middle of nowhere, Montana, and the first day we rode 20 miles, and then just like through treacherous stuff, I mean, ups and downs. And then we found out that the mule that I was riding, he liked to jump over everything. Like he could step over a log real easy and he would just jump it for some reason. And we didn't want to put the mules through too much. And so we would go a lot of times if something was more dramatic, we would just walk the mules up or down. And I'm from the flatland and Clay was from the mountains, and so he was a lot faster than I was at going up and down them. And plus I, was not prepared at all. That mule was dragging me all over the country because he wanted to be with the other mule. And so it was just a fight. And by the end of the day, the upper parts of my quads and my knees were just jumping because of all the downhills that I wasn't used to. That was the time I learned that I would much rather go uphill a lot of times than downhill on steeper inclines just because I remember that. I was already like not prepared. And so my body didn't know how to recover. The whole week was just hard because my body was not used to going out and doing those types of hard things and recovering or enduring or anything. That hunt more than anything, I learned what it meant to be mentally tough, and I learned that I was mentally tough. And so I think that hard experience really prepared me to just, YOLO, just go out there and it's like, just go out there and be like, look, I don't know how this is going to go, but I've been through hard stuff. Like, I'm not afraid of this. I'm just going to go and we're going to see what happens. Putting yourself through something that's outside of what you think you can do, that's invaluable to just like build that mental toughness. When you get around a campfire, you typically tell the stories about like how things really sucked, just like things that really pressed you or you had to get through or were really like horrible at the time. But when you look back at it, it brings a sense of lightness. Reflecting on that hunt, I came up with this like concept in my mind. We actually have a company called this, but it's called mountain gravity. And it's just you get out there on the mountain and something shifts to where it's like the gravity changes externally, the gravity increased, but there's something inside that just was like an uplift
Mm,
inside of those hard things and pushing. Even though everything was kicking my butt, I wasn't frustrated. I wasn't getting angry. It's like, boy, I was having a great time. I was joyful. And so learning that, in those times that I can go to that positive mental attitude. and just stay positive no matter how much something sucks. I really valued that because in that moment I feel like, oh well, I'm safe to carry inside these situations for other people, you know? Because
Yeah.
if not, that would keep me from going with other people because I don't want to pull them down or make it about me or whatever. And it's like I might be slow. I'll definitely be the last one there. I got short legs and I'm not always physically fit, but I'm gonna make it and you're gonna have a good time regardless, you know.
You are gonna laugh and have a good time, that's for darn
Yeah,
sure. Any time with Kolby Morehead is a good time.
yeah. I'm a little more serious on podcasts. I don't think it comes through that I like joke like crazy.
I would say the 2 things when you're sitting around a campfire telling stories of old, A, it's gonna be probably the things that you had to endure and because they shape who you are. Yeah, you've got the difficult and the hard that you have to overcome, but you also have the lighthearted, the funny, the embarrassing moments as well. So,
Uh-huh.
do you have any funny or embarrassing moments that you can remember while out on a bear hunt?
I don't think that I want to share. I'll tell you off air.
So that they do exist.
Oh wait, no, no, no. I got one. I got one. I got one. So I have this saga and this like hate relationship with hornets and yellow jackets. Man, I was going to do a bait where we were having to go back for a long ways, and we were baiting this bait with mules. And so we had two mules, and this time I was by myself. I had these mules, tied together in a train, and they were both had panniers on them, and I was carrying a bunch of bait. And so we get up, I get up to this bait, I get it all baited, and then I'm starting back down. Well, I get probably a third of the way down the mountain, and all of a sudden, the rear mule runs up in front of the lead mule, right, and he stops like right here, like in front of me. And I'm like, "What are you? Why are you acting so dumb?" Well, then all of a sudden, both of them start bucking and kicking, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna die!" Like, because it's like these are 1,000-pound animals, and they're going wild. Instead of coming towards me, luckily they back away and pull the lead away from me, and then they take off up the mountain. And one of these mules is like, if he gets loose, like he is not catchable. And so they take off, and I don't know what's going on. All I know is they're going up the mountain. I got to go up the mountain. And so I take off running, and I'm chasing them. And then all of a sudden, I feel stuff start hitting me in the back of my shirt. And all of a sudden, like I start feeling pulsing and stuff in my back. And somehow we had lit up a hornet's nest on that trail, the same trail that we had gone up, but they were tagging the fire out of me, and like I was just like I can't stop. And so I'm just like, maybe if I go faster there'll be enough wind under my shirt or something where they can't sting me. They could still sting me. It hurt. Anyway, so I'm running, and I get to the mules because the mules finally stop. And so like I grab a lead, and then I just back up against a tree, and I'm like rubbing, like if you're still there, you're gonna die. Finally, the hornets leave. And so then I have to bushwhack with two mules around some rocky terrain because I'm not going back through that crap again.
No
And so
way.
I make a big loop around, and it was hard during and after that. And then I was like, I am nowhere close to being able to get any help. Like it was a moment of a reality check. Like I don't have Benadryl, I don't have anything that would help me out. I don't like, and it would take me an hour to get anywhere. And so, but I made it back to the truck, all was well, and I didn't die, so that was good.
No, I mean, speaking of yellow jackets, our first hunt together, we
Yeah.
went on the On Point experience with Garrett Weaver, with Cody. We wrote up an article about that whole experience inside Bear Hunting Magazine. We were up in Oregon. Cody got a bear down, and right when you guys were trying to field dress it and take care of it, sure enough,
Mhm.
you're right on top of a big old yellow jacket nest, and
Yeah. That
those
time it
yellow
went right
jackets
for
went to
me. I didn't
work.
move, and they were running around, and I was just filming. I was scared to move, like, golly. And then after that, they were like, "Well, we've already been stung. Let's just drag it away and then let them calm down." So they drag it away, and then it lands on another yellow jacket nest. Like we couldn't win for losing. And then at dark, those yellow jackets were chasing our headlamps, and so we had to wait for it to actually cool off pretty good. Yeah, that was a nightmare.
Yeah, you're wearing a Vortex shirt, and that reminds me, I went on a bear hunt with Tucker out here in Colorado, who works there with Vortex,
Yeah.
and he is pretty allergic
Oh,
to bee
really?
stings, yellow jackets, all that. And
That's dangerous.
right where we had set up camp, of course, there's yellow jackets coming out of the ground. And
Oh,
we
man.
didn't really notice it because we had hiked in at night, set up. And then the next day, when we were in there during the afternoon, he ends up getting stung in the hand. And I
Oh,
mean, we didn't have the stuff that you need, and you need Benadryl and you need some stuff if you're allergic. And I mean,
yeah.
my son JJ was with us on that hunt, and he was calling Tucker Wreck It Ralph because his hand like swelled up. It took like days for it to go down. Like it was bad. All right, we'll speed up and jump to the next thing. So you've hunted bears though in a lot of different places.
Mhm.
Do you have a favorite, like state, region, and
Yeah.
why?
I mean, my favorite is here at home, and it's just because this is my stomping ground, so it just feels like that real connection to place. Other than that, I mean, I've loved everywhere that I've hunted. I think, Oregon holds a special place because of the people that I go with up there. I think location for me is typically like who I go with. So like now I really like to go to Wyoming because like I got some good buddies there now. For me, it's more about the people and the company than it is the actual location. But I will say like Oregon has a special place to me, like that Southern Oregon area.
Even though you haven't got a bear up there yet.
Yeah, both times I've gone, that it's been hard. It's almost like I have a bad omen around me or something because they'll be getting bears, and then the week that I'm there is just like tough. It'll come together at some point. But I really like Oregon, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho's a good spot. Like those are western hunts. In the east, Maine is a really good
Yeah.
destination.
Maine has a huge population. I mean, they've got over 30,000 bears in a small state. Like
Mm.
California has, I think, estimated somewhere between 35 and 45,000 bears.
I think it's 60 to 80 now. They changed their
Gosh.
tune.
That population has been exploding for years, but there's
Hmm.
so much land mass in California. I mean, California is
Hmm.
such a huge state.
Yeah.
Then to go to Maine, the concentration of bears in Maine is absurd. To have
Yeah.
35,000 bears in that small of an area it's pretty crazy how many bears they have up there.
Yeah, 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 and then that whole eastern seaboard. The cool thing about out east is there's a deep tradition of bear hunting, especially with hounds. And I like the fact that we're getting some advance out there, especially like down in Florida. Like you're starting to see like that's the hot spot to be able to expand on opportunities. I mean, New Jersey's overrun with bears from what I've heard. Connecticut is talking about having their first bear hunt potentially. That's a really blue state, but they
Yeah.
have increasing amounts of bears breaking into houses. Those things are big drivers where it's like, well, I don't want a bear breaking into my house. And it just has to happen once for somebody to change their tune. I think everyone should save up and go on at least one baited hunt in Canada. There's something really special about being up in the boreal forest and bears just appearing and, just being in such thick, dense forest and then these things just showing up. It's really special. I think the first time that you have a bear sneak in to where it's like a big bear, but it didn't make a sound coming in and all of a sudden it's just there is a really special moment. And just seeing the sheer amount of bears. And I would say doing that early inside of your bear hunting experience, whether it's there somewhere that just gets a heavy concentration of bears, to be able to have them come in to start to be able to try to judge them, tell whether it's a boar or sow. You
Yeah.
take photos, you go back and you talk to your outfitter, and these outfitters are experts. Like they see so many bears that a lot of times it's second nature to them to just know things, especially if they weigh all the bears that they take, that they harvest, kill, whatever your verbiage there. They're just a wealth of information. And I would say if you can go on an outfitted hunt first before you dive into it on your own, or better yet, try to do it once on your own and then go and hunt with somebody so you have a context for what questions to ask or what to look for, what you're trying to learn. I think that's the best type of learning is to try it yourself and then go and ask questions that are relevant.
Well, for me here in Colorado, like everything is kind of spot and stock for the most part. You're not
Uh-huh.
baiting is illegal. There's not a spring bear season. Most of the people that hunt bears that I know out here do it as an add-on tag, not as their primary tag. So they'll have a deer
Mm.
tag, an elk tag, and if they shoot a deer, they shoot an elk, you're not even allowed to move the gut pile. It has to lay where it was, but you
Oh,
can
really?
hunt over the gut pile. And
Uh-huh.
so a lot of times if people get a deer or an elk, they'll have a bear tag and then kind of hunt over the gut pile in hopes that a
Yeah.
bear comes in. So spot and stock has kind of been my thing. My introduction was in Oregon with Garrett Weaver, really showing me the ropes on bear hunting, which I'd never experienced. And even realizing like, okay, I did that style of bear hunting in Oregon, but that
Mhm.
style doesn't necessarily even apply to like how I couldn't really implement what I learned up there into the context of how I would hunt in Colorado, nor
Yeah.
does that apply to how I hunted in Canada when I went with an outfitter up in Alberta. And I would really double down on what you say and say, man, I think going with an outfitter up in Canada taught me so much. And I was kind of hesitant about it, to be honest, because I'd never done the
Mhm.
baited thing. And I was like, I don't know if I'm even going to like this. I don't know how I feel about
Mm.
it. It completely changed my perspective. I don't see it as cheating anymore. I don't see it
Mhm.
as a negative. I was like, man, that is an incredible experience because you really do get the intimacy of having that experience with a bear. You're less likely to shoot a sow with cubs because you have direct interaction. You can watch everything play out. If it's a sow with cubs, you're going to see the cubs. Versus like if you're doing
Mhm.
a spot and stock, there's definitely times where you see a bear out in the field and you don't know, is it a sow? Is it a boar? And maybe you don't see the cubs that are hidden in the vegetation right near it. And I think the
Mhm.
odds of somebody shooting a sow with cubs on accident in the West of just a spot and stock is significantly higher. And even like you were talking about chasing shadows in the forest and all that stuff, when you do it
Mhm.
over bait, there's a lot that goes into it that I just gained a huge appreciation. Plus, what you were saying with the experience, I got to sit with a guide that's been doing this for 40 years and he has story after story, so much knowledge, and you could ask him so many questions. And it was an incredible, incredible experience. So I just second your input there and say, look, if you can save up and go on these hunts, go do one of those hunts up in Canada. Ballpark pricing. I mean, you work with a lot of these outfitters. I've only done the one hunt up in Alberta. I know that those hunts are like a 5-day hunt. It's about a 7-day
Mhm.
trip, and they generally run between 4,000 and 5,000 with that outfitter that I went with. But you
Mhm.
do this a lot more. I mean, you've got from Manitoba to Saskatchewan to, Alberta, all over British Columbia.
Mhm.
Generally, how much are you paying for an outfitted bear hunt in Canada?
It ranges widely because not all packages are the same. Some outfitters include the license and everything. Some include all your stay, but not your license. Typically, on a bear hunt, oftentimes like your lodging will be included, but just ballpark, you would see them range from probably around that 3,000 mark to like 5,500. If you're going to go on some wild hunt up in Alaska or British Columbia, like gets a little pricier. But it varies widely. I mean, you could probably even find bear hunts as cheap as like 1,800 in some areas. But sometimes you get what you pay for. One of the things to understand is these outfitters aren't making a ton of money. It sounds like a big amount to pay when you think about it. But it's like that's including your lodging most of the time. And bait is expensive and just getting more expensive. I think
Yeah.
that's the driver for things going up. Like inflation's hitting everybody. I mean, 2 years ago, whenever I got my big bear, I had a bait that was just getting hammered. I was having to go fill it up every 3 days. I mean, I probably spent $2,000 on that one bait because it was hitting so hard, and you just don't want a bait to go dry. And that was over like a time of like 30 days. You just have to remember there's a lot of expenses. I mean, even these grizzly hunts or these fly-in hunts in Alaska, those hunts are so expensive, and it's not because the outfitter's keeping most of it. To hire a plane is really expensive. And it's not even because of all of like the upkeep of the plane or all that, but when you get a plane that has these big wheels that is not landing on asphalt on a tarmac, like their insurance rates are just astronomical. And so I've talked to an outfitter and he's like, whenever we sell a hunt, say it's a $20,000 hunt, he's like, we spend $10,000 on just getting to that spot. It's like it might only be like 3 miles
Wow.
away, but they have to make multiple trips and insurance is just so expensive. And so I think those are things to keep in mind. And you're not really paying somebody to do all the work for you. Like you're exchanging the things that you're good at and you do and you specialize in your day to day, and then you're trading that time you put in with the money that you got, and you're trading that time to the time that they put into planning, running baits, getting everything in the off season. Like there's outfitters that this is a year-round thing for them because when it snows, they'll go in with their snow sleds, their machines, and they'll carry, like, say, corn. They'll carry barrels of corn in on a sled because it's easier in the snow. So they're out there working in cold, cold, cold area, and then
Wow.
just, they're going in there when it's heavy snow, going to all these baits, and dropping off their stuff, and then they're going and
And
collecting
you're
all their
saying that, I mean,
grease.
that's not even when bears are active. You're saying
Yeah.
they're doing that for storage for future hunts. I mean, they're doing
Yeah.
that in the middle of the winter because it's easier to pull in with that
Mhm.
equipment. They're not
Yeah.
feeding during the winter, but they're
Yeah.
wow.
They're working throughout the year. I mean, really what you pay
Yeah.
for this hunt is really not that much. I mean, if you went on another vacation, like all-inclusive vacation, you're gonna spend the same amount and not be participating as much as you are. You still have to put in the time in the stand. You still have to make good decisions when it comes to which bears come in, like which
Yep.
ones you wanna take. You have to wait for the right shot. You have to make a good shot. You have to give the outfitter good information, like, you have to remember, like, what happened after you shot. An outfitter will help you as much as they can. They'll, like, skin your bear with you.
I
Like, you'll
learned a
learn
ton on
all
that.
these
Like I made a
things.
video that's on the HuntLeague YouTube channel about skinning out a bear, and I didn't really focus on like the head and some of the other stuff that's maybe a little bit more common because skinning out the head of a bear is a little bit more similar to what you would do with a deer or an elk or any other
Mhm,
species. But I really focused on the paws and the intricate work. That, like, all right, how would you do this?
mhm.
But I learned that not because of just my own trial and error, but I learned because I watch a guy that skins 4 or 5 bears a day for the last 10 years, like just going into it. He's like, yeah, I've probably skinned at least 500 bears. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's crazy. All right.
yeah,
I've got a son that's going to be finishing up football practice here in a couple minutes. So I'm going to
yeah,
popcorn question you with a handful because
yeah.
I want to get through a little bit of my list. So if someone's never been on a bear hunt before,
Mhm,
what's a great entry point? I kind of heard you recommend going with an outfitter, doing a baited hunt,
mhm.
but what are some easy entry points for somebody that's never done a bear hunt?
Spot and stalk is a lot cheaper, but it would be about the journey, not the destination. You can get over-the-counter bear tags all over the West in, like, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Washington, and Oregon in the fall. Oregon's a draw in the spring, and maybe we'll get the Washington spring bear hunt back at some point. But I would say, like, those states, the thing to keep in mind is, like, grizzlies are expanding, so the closer you get to that greater Yellowstone ecosystem, make sure you carry a sidearm, some sort of protection.
Yeah, bear spray, sidearm, something, a deterrent there. And you got
Mhm,
to be more careful about where you're camping, the food that's in and around you, all those things when you're in Grizz country. Not that
mhm,
it's not important when you're in black bear because they are curious little critters.
mhm,
All
yeah.
right, what is the most underrated bear destination in your mind?
California, just because they have so many bears and they have a lot of public land there too. I think people stay away from it just because of the politics. So,
No, that's
yeah.
good. All right, you've hunted in a lot of places. We're talking bucket list here. What's still on your bear hunting bucket list?
I think I want to go to Alaska at some point and just experience that.
I like it. They got over
Yeah.
100,000 black bears in the state of Alaska.
Yeah.
They're overrun with black bears and brown
Yeah.
bears, grizzlies. They got it all up there.
Yeah.
Wolves.
I,
So it'd be
I
pretty
also
epic.
want to go and do a bear drive in Pennsylvania because that's the one method I haven't done.
Yeah.
So
Now, I don't really hear much about bear drives, and I know there's some legal things of like pushing, and when you talk about a bear drive in Pennsylvania, explain that real quick.
it's like what they do. So drives are kind of a traditional thing in Pennsylvania. So, like, whenever they would go on a deer drive, it's the same thing with bears. You'll have a line of guys and they go through habitat where the animal they're after would likely stay, and then they push them to guys that are at designated positions um along the way.
You have
Yeah.
hunters kind of positioned at escape routes, and then you have people that
Mhm.
walk through.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, if you're on the drive itself, are the people that are walking through, are they carrying a rifle? Are they also actively hunting while they're on the drive, or is it just really the people that are guarding the escape routes?
Well, that's one of the things I think they would be carrying, but that's one of the things that I need to go and experience because, I think in the last 10 years, I can only remember one article where we ran an article about a bear drive because that's just what's been submitted. And a lot of these things are so natural and just part of normal life. I think a lot of guys don't think about writing an article or that's something special. unless they get a really big bear. We're trying to get more articles out of the eastern side because it's easy for us to get western bear hunts because guys are doing it and this is big grand adventure. But whenever it comes to the eastern side and it's like this is just what guys do.
This is what they've done for generations. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
special.
I've never thought about writing an article about a whitetail hunt because I grew up doing it all this time. It's just like just what I do, you know.
Sure.
I want to go experience those things so that I can find the beauty in it or like explain it to people whenever they ask me that I have some experience to tie it to.
All right. Well, speaking of Bear Hunting Magazine, anything new or exciting? What's going on inside the magazine that people should know about?
I mean, we're just writing more about gear. We're trying to include different groups and what they're doing. So, like, we'll have like the Sportsman's Alliance or somebody else write an article a lot of times on like the things they have going on. We have regular columnists that share their thoughts and perspectives on things and tactics. We're about to dive into doing more crafting things. So, mainly using bear grease to do different projects. We're going to make it diverse and cover the different methods as much as possible.
Yeah.
Mainly the big 3, which would be spot and stalk, bait, and hounds.
Do you have any upcoming projects, collaborations, or events that people should know about?
No, I just got a couple of hunts coming up. I'm gonna go to Georgia and see if I can make something come together. Baiting here locally, like we'll do stuff on social and everything. But
How can listeners support the magazine and the greater bear hunting community?
I would just say subscribe and share it out. Follow us on social, those types of things. Go buy some merch. Just the usual things. Also, engaging with posts. That's one of the things that we struggle with on social is it's already constricted on outdoor brands and the things that we do. So people liking and like commenting or sharing stuff really helps. We're doing more collaborations with brands on our social. We're wanting our social to be more community based and not just me. I think that goes a long way, just building a sense of community and sharing the good news.
Well, speaking of a cool collaboration I've seen you be a part of, you did a little series on bear hunting with Remington Ammunition. I've been getting the emails from them. I've seen you on the Vortex podcast recently. So there's been a lot of those collaborations that I've gotten to see that are outside of
Yeah.
Bear Hunting Magazine where I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, there's my dude, Kolby Morehead
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. Our focus this year has just been on relationship. And so building relationships with brands, building relationships with people. We really are wanting to make it so that we're more community based. We're not out there just talking to people that advertise with us or like we get something from it. We're trying to build a community that's built around relationship.
Yeah. Well, after all these years, why does bear hunting still light your fire?
I just think they're special. They take you to wild places. I mean, I think it's the same reason that for a while I got into fly fishing and it's starting to reemerge, but it just gets me to places that I would never go otherwise. It's so easy to get stuck inside your day to day and the things that surround you normally. I can go out to the same place every year, the same stand, the same spot and kill a deer, and I can't do that with a bear.
Yeah.
So I think they just keep you on your toes. And when you see one, it really is special because they're a lower density animal. There's a bunch out there, but that doesn't mean that you're going to
You're going
see
to
them.
see them.
I think they're just in the wild places, and if you want to see wild places, you have to go. And it's always going to press you, push you, make you grow if you lean into it and try to take something good out of it. But they'll test you, and there's nothing as cool as a black bear inside of my mind. Like they have personalities. Each bear is different. And I mean, last year I got on one on public and I just decided not to take it and just to watch it. And it got out and started swimming in front of me inside of a pond, and I had this bear at 17 yards and he was still broadside. And I don't know, I just wanted to watch him. Whenever I see a deer is a deer. Whenever I see a bear, it's like I'm looking for the individual things inside that bear. And there's just nothing like it.
I love that. Well, what legacy do you hope that Bear Hunting Magazine leaves for the next generation of hunters?
I think it's just that sense of community and guarding others and not thinking that you have everything figured out or that your way's the best. I think leaving space for others would be the biggest thing.
All right. We're going to do a quick bonus segment. This is a lightning round, and we're calling it Bear or Bull. You're the bear hunter. I'm the elk hunter out here. Bear means true. Bull means false. So here we're just going to go through a quick lightning round.
Okay.
Question number 1. Bear hunting is a trophy sport.
Bear. Trophy's a loaded a loaded thing, but it holds special things in it that you would want to keep for a lifetime.
I like it. Hound hunting. It's too easy.
That's bull.
Bears will eat anything.
Bull.
The best bear hunters are the best husbands.
Yeah, I'm going to say that straight up bear.
All bears hibernate.
Mm-mm. No, that's bull.
Bear hunting in the morning is a waste of time.
That's some bear and some bull. There's a little bit of bull in that. I don't favor mornings.
You can't eat bear meat.
Bull. Triple bull.
Triple bull. Calling triple bull on that one. Humans just recently started hunting bears for sport.
Well, I'm going to say bull because nobody hunts it just for sport.
Last question, lightning round. Bears are predictable by nature, bull or bear?
That's a triple bull. Bears do bear things, and that just means they do whatever they want in the moment. Yeah, you never know what they'll do.
Kolby Morehead, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the HuntLeague podcast, sharing your knowledge, your insights, your stories. You are beloved inside the HuntLeague community, and we only hope to see more. You mentioned a Georgia bear hunt. What else do you have coming up on the bear hunts for you personally?
Maybe Idaho, maybe Wyoming again, Georgia, maybe Pennsylvania, maybe Florida. Definitely Arkansas.
You got a good list going. Well, thanks again for joining us today. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Social media, Bear Hunting Mag on IG and Facebook.
All right, brother. Thanks for all the insights, dropping truth bombs, bear and bull on us.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks for tuning in to the HuntLeague podcast. Whether or not you consider yourself a bear hunter, I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Kolby Morehead. As hunters, it is our responsibility to guard the gate. With the spring season coming to a close, that means fall hunts are just around the corner. So stay tuned as we will be announcing the winner of the 2024-25 Western Hunter League. And we are kicking off the Sweet September League starting July 1st. Join our growing community by downloading the HuntLeague mobile app and start logging your adventures today.